Coming up on All About Android, pretty awesome episode, you guys. We talked to Dave Burke and Dan Sandler from the Android team. We talk all about the big Android rebranding that just happened, gesture navigation, Easter eggs in Android, and we celebrate 10 awesome years of the Android platform with them. Up next on All About Android.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of All About Android is brought to you by Capterra. Find the right tools to make an informed software decision for your business. Visit Capterra's free website at capterra.com/AAA. And by LegalZoom. Check out LegalZoom's last will and living trust estate plans now during National Make-A-Will Month. Visit LegalZoom.com and enter AAA at checkout for special savings. And by ExpressVPN. Protect your online privacy with one click. Yes, it's that easy. For 3 extra months free with a 1-year package, just go to expressvpn.com/allaboutandroid. Hello and welcome to All About Android, episode 435, recorded on Tuesday, August 27th, 2019, your weekly source for latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Ron Richards.
And I'm Florence Ion.
And we are psyched. We are stoked today. You know why?
Why?
Not only is it August 27th, and that's an amazing day, apparently.
Virgo season.
Thank you. I'm a Virgo, so I appreciate that. We are joined by not one, but 2 amazing people. First, Dave Burke, Vice President of Engineering for Android at Google. Dave, welcome to the show. Welcome back, actually. You were a returning visitor to this show.
A few months ago.
Yes, this is my second time. Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Is this your two-timers jacket here? Like your second time on the show?
Somebody gave me a loan of this. It says Bootcamp 2017.
From our partner Bootcamp.
Okay, yeah, apparently that has nothing to do with All About Android.
The second-timer jacket's in the mail. You should get it in a couple of days. So, yeah.
And also the first-timer jacket, we need to send that out. I'm sorry, it's not in the mail yet, but it will be soon. Dan Sandler joins us as well, software engineer, also lead on the system UI team for Android. Dan, it's great to finally get you on. We appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here. I'm actually just decorative, really. Dave's the real draw.
I thought you were doing the hard work here.
Oh, well, I mean.
If by hard work you mean wearing the 10 on the shirt, then yes, you've nailed it.
The very subtle branding of Dan there. I appreciate the 10 on the shirt. That's pretty good.
So obviously very apropos. Anyone who's been following Android this past week especially realizes that there was not just a little bit of little news. There was some pretty significant news. This was the first time in, 5 or 6 years since the Android brand has gotten somewhat of a facelift. I don't know what you want to call it, a rebranding, a new direction in branding.
Double digits
also. Like, there's a lot of changes that have happened in the past week. And so we are fortunate, lucky, and happy to have you both on to talk about those changes. And we thought, we've got you for the hour so we can talk about a lot of other things, things that, we love about Android over the course of the last 10 years. We are, at our core, Android fans. That's why we do this show, because we love Android as a platform. So so it's really great to get you guys on. Let's start with the rebranding, because I think that's kind of what's top of mind right now. Had a big announcement last week that basically the Android brand, the logo, I mean, some of it's a little subtle, but some of it's not quite as subtle. The big changes integrating the bug droid into the logo. I guess talk about the desire to rebrand. When did you start kind of hearing about this happening? What was the motivation behind it?
I think we probably started talking about it, let's say sometime last year. And for us, it's interesting. The Android brand came about not with a huge amount of thought, I would say, right? It was like a pretty rapid thing that came together early on, and we sort of did the minimum we could to sort of get started. That's actually like a theme of Android in general. Like, it's like, what's the simplest thing we can do to get started? And then it's like continual improvement after that. And we've tried to sort of live that on the Android platform itself and the product. And branding is it's the same thing with branding. It's like continual improvement, except that we haven't actually done much improvement. So we decided we would invest some time in it. And part of it was just also we were really sort of thinking about where we are 10 years in. 10 plus years in, how big Android's got. And we wanted to make sure it was globally relevant. And we were starting to get feedback that a lot of the dessert names are not globally, relatable. So, Android Pie is awesome. And of course, as many people know, we name our releases after desserts in alphabetical order. But Android Pie is, while it's a dessert in some countries, it's not a dessert in other countries. And so we were like, it wasn't perfect. And then we were starting to think about Q and all the different names we could come up with for desserts in Q, and they tend to be a little bit more exotic. What we were coming
just
up with,
a little bit, yeah.
And it just kind of reminded us. It was like, well, what's a good name that's globally relatable? And we were like, this is kind of hard. And that sort of started off the discussion. One thing I just actually want to debunk is that. There was a rumor that Q was too hard to name, so we came up with numbers. But I want to point out that left to my own devices, I would have called this thing Queen Cake. And I think Queen Cake is like a really good name. Like, I think it's like up there with honeycomb or lollipop or marshmallow.
Okay.
That's the Mardi Gras cake, correct?
Mardi Gras cake.
Yeah, with a little baby inside of it, right?
Queen Cake.
I thought it was King Cake. Is that?
Well,
I mean, there should be a spectrum of these cakes, but I just hadn't heard it called a.
I saw a picture of a Queen Cake and it looks really tasty. It sounds good.
I know. A Google search for Queen Cake surfaces a Queen Elizabeth cake. A queen cake with whipped cream and jam filling recipe. I mean, honestly, on this show, we went through the gamut over the last couple of months of what possible Q desserts could be. I'm not sure we ever narrowed in on queen cake.
No.
That's a big missing
we forgot about
piece
that
of the puzzle.
Whoopsie.
I know, and I also think it's I think it would have been really good. Anyway, so I just want to debunk it. That was we had a good contender.
We had a deep bench.
We had
lots
of options. We did a lot of options.
You needed a deep bench on letter Q.
But we wanted to come up with something that was that worked in all countries. Like Android's got so big, it's a global platform, and we wanted something that worked everywhere. And then we started thinking about numbers, and we're like, wow, numbers are cool. You can add them and you can subtract them and invert them. And
they're really flexible.
And the other thing that numbers do, which I think is an understated benefit, is they encode sequence information. So you can actually compare one number to another and see which one's later and not. Because people got confused. They were like, is lollipop newer than marshmallow? I don't know. So I'm being facetious, but I think numbers are just more universal. They make a lot more sense. So
yeah.
One thing we are doing, though, is we will continue to use desserts as code names internally. And that was kind of important for our engineering team and our product teams. Just we like having fun with
that was going to be my question.
We have to call it something. We have to call it something.
Wait, so internally, what is 10? Can you share that?
Queen Cake, right?
It was QT.
Quinstart.
QT.
Quinstart, yes. We asked because some of us have a bet and we need some of us need to pay out. So we're trying to make money off of this endeavor. So thank you.
I mean, our source code branch is called Qt Dev.
That's right. If you look in AOSP, you can see all of the other names of the various branches that we've used as development branches. You go back in time and you see things like MNC. MNC is not an abbreviation of marshmallow. Cookie. It's a macadamia nut cookie. Right. We've always had the code name ever since, I guess, KitKat. We've had the code name for the code name. Yeah. And we're going to keep having the code name for the code name. We just won't have the code name.
Correct.
So it's a code name for the number, basically. So but so here's the question then: as you progress, will the next one be R? Will you continue the alphabet, or now is just you can just be anything that you fancy?
Oh, no, we're definitely going to keep the lexicographic sorting. I think that's really important. I was just talking to Diane about it a little earlier about what we would name that the future branches.
Oh, yeah. We can't really sell this.
No.
Is that secret? Are codenames secret now? I don't know. Or do we tell people?
I think what we've done is we've taken the whole dessert idea and given it back to the true super fans, the way that it was before we started actually making it part of our overall branding exercise. Back in the Eclair days, I don't think we ever got out there and said, Nexus 1 now with Eclair. That was just an internal thing. And so now we're back to that being for the listeners of this podcast.
Hey, nostalgia is a powerful thing, so that's pretty good. But so the last time you guys did there was a branding shift back in 2014 around Android. Did you guys apply any learnings from that branding shift as you approach this in terms of how to message it and how to kind of the materials that go into this, or is it just purely around the switch to 10?
Yeah, I mean, like if you were to ask most of the team, they were like, "Wait, we did what in 2014?" That was like a much smaller change. You know, like I think we changed the word mark a little bit, and the green color changed a little bit. I think the changes that we made this time are a lot bigger. I mean, it's to somebody who's into logos and brands, this is a huge change. To somebody who doesn't pay attention to this, they're like, "Wait, oh, you have a robot now, and there's some more colors." So it really depends where you live in that spectrum. But we actually did quite a lot for this change. So the first is like, and I'm not a designer, by the way, so like I'll caveat that up front. But we changed the word mark from a green to a black, and we wanted to do that so that it was more readable, more accessible. We also came up with a new color palette, and we wanted something like a standard palette so that we get some consistency. And actually, if you look at the palette, and you're showing it now on the video for people who can see it, it's high contrast. The other thing we did was we wanted to make sure that it works with some of our other logos. Often we'll have some sort of Google product logos with Android, and so it kind of made sense to us that they would at least be compatible. We also updated the font on the Android. And then probably the biggest change is that we've sort of pulled the robot head into the logo. And the robot's this like really kind of fun mascot, that we've had for many years, and it in some ways it was odd that it wasn't part of the actual word mark, and so now we've brought it in, and so we're pretty happy about that. And
it's
actually
like Mickey
looks really
Mouse
cool.
ears, Mickey Mouse ears of Android.
Exactly. And they animate now, apparently.
Yeah,
well, they
right.
can, right? As part of our official brand guidelines now, the Android head, which is all that is really left corporeally, can have emotions.
I like how you said it can animate. It can animate. It was a little defensive, as though you forgot to code it up in our boot animation.
I did not forget to code it up in the boot animation. I just haven't gotten to that.
You haven't got to it. Okay.
That's why, actually, that's the reason I'm on the podcast now, is that this is how I find out feature requests from Dave. This happened at I.O.
You make the ears when
it happened on Twitter. I will look into that. I'm gonna run that by branding, honestly, because I don't know if that.
It's a little tricky because when you're booting, Surface Flinger is not up and running. Surface Flinger is our core graphics compositor, and so I'm getting a bit technical on that, but we don't have all of the system available to us. So actually, animating is a little more tricky.
It's actually that's one of the things my team is responsible for. It's one of the few pieces of system UI that's not in Java running in the Android environment. It's just an OpenGL program, and we have a pack of still frames that we are trying to flip on screen as fast as possible because we don't want to slow down boot. Right, so it's literally the dumbest thing that could possibly work. Again, Android specialty, and so if we want to make those and kind of do something interesting, we just got to generate more frames.
Well, that sounds good.
I want to switch gears a little bit about accessibility. We were just talking about the new color palette. It's a little bolder, a little higher contrast. So can we talk a little bit about how this branding is kind of tying in this? I mean, Android has always been focused on accessibility, but it feels now like a big hey. So kind of can you guys talk a little bit about that and the push for that, and what this means for the brand overall?
Yeah, I mean, I think accessibility is something we've been investing more and more in Android. I mean, on the logo stuff, we did all the sort of best practices and made sure that we used, the web content, accessibility guidelines, et cetera. But in general, we've actually staffed up and added more engineers and product managers onto accessibility features. One of the coolest things that in Android 10, is some of the work we've done on hearing aids. And so we've come up with one of the challenges with hearing aids is that if you want to stream from a phone, historically you would use Bluetooth Classic, which is very power hungry. And so your battery life in your hearing aids would be gone in a day. Mm-hmm. We've come up with a new profile using Bluetooth Low Energy. That means you can use your phone with your hearing aids and get week-long battery life. And so we've invested in a new format. It's a GATT profile using connection-oriented channels with Bluetooth 5. That's the technical backstory, but it basically means the phone with no extra software or any extra peripherals can just directly discover, pair, and connect, and then stream to your hearing aids. And it can do it in stereo, by the way. It'll have 2 channels to both ears. But it's just an example of one of the things that we've been doing for accessibility. And there's a bunch of other features I could talk about, but it's just something that it's good that you brought it up because it's sort of the same thing where we feel the platform now has this global relevance, but it's got this huge 2.5 billion plus devices out there, and we want to make sure that it's working for everybody, right? Whether that's somebody who's discovering the internet for the first time in a country, or if it's disabled users who need some help with accessing their device, and so we want to make sure it works for everybody.
And not just accessing their devices, but also, from the logo perspective, all these subtle changes. Now they can engage with the brand wherever it happens to be printed. If they have vision impairments of some sort or whatever, like it really seems like that accessibility messaging is now extending beyond features inside of the phone and more into the brand itself, and that's a good thing.
It allows us to make better and more accessible design choices too.
Sure.
Right? Like we can deliver assets and products and tools in a palette where we can achieve that contrast, which was very difficult to do with the previous green, which was kind of in the middle and didn't really have enough contrast with anything. And I'm red-green colorblind, so when I design things, I'm like, I use the Android green for everything. People are like, Dan, that looks like acid. What have you done? And I'm like, it looks fine. And now we've got a green that is like guaranteed to actually look good. And as you said, it matches like the blue in the new Android palette, matches the Google blue, but we've also got that lovely tan and the navy. I don't know if those have better names, but that's what I called them.
Sounds
look good.
Yeah, that works for me.
So Dave, you mentioned you want to design Android to be accessible to everybody, and you mentioned 2.5 billion devices, which is great. Does the scale of that number ever become so daunting when you're making product decisions and branding decisions and things like that? Because really, reaching that number, to me, it's unfathomable to reach that number of people in with one change. How do you use that as a guiding principle in making these decisions? I mean, at some point, you can't really make everybody happy with everything, right?
Right. No, it's totally true. I mean, the first thing I would say just on that number is I would say about once a week, it's just shocking to me when I think of the sheer scale of this thing. Like when I think back to the early days when Android was being created, it was like this audacious thing. It was like we were kind of frustrated with mobile SDKs or super limited. We couldn't, we as mobile app developers at Google couldn't, innovate. And so we had this crazy idea, well, why don't we just make a new operating system and like convince everyone to use it? And it was like, yeah, sure, whatever, let's try anyway. And so to go from that to where we are today is just, I mean, like we use the word humbling, but like literally it's very, very humbling. It's like, and also like, I think for us, engineers on the project, we're also probably, and this almost sounds negative, but we probably all realize we'll never work on a project like this ever again. Like, I mean, how often in a generation does a project go from, zero to that kind of scale and impact? Totally. And so
I find that freeing, honestly, to know that like I've peaked.
It's never going to get any better.
That's right. Yeah, no, I know I can focus on what I feel like is important rather than like, trying to get to the next thing.
But then I think shifts, which is like now you feel responsibility, right? Because we put this thing out there and now we're responsible to make sure that it's great. And as I mentioned earlier, that it's working for everyone and we're continually improving it. And so you sort of shift from this like, sort of on fire, trying your hardest to make something successful to, okay, now it's successful. Now we need to make sure this is really good. And like, there's opportunities to, like a simple thing like using your phone in cars. Like, we can do things that can make it safer, right? And so if we're not doing it, then we're kind of failing. And so and that's sort of an example of the responsibility you start to feel for the platform.
Yeah, it's for us, at least on my team, the people I work with on Framework and UI Toolkit, like it's not paralyzing, it's motivating, right? We come in every day saying we're no longer worried about like, what if this doesn't work? Now, like, it is,
right?
And now that we've found love, what are we going to do with it? Like that's, as the prophet said.
And then I think the other thing I would say is, one of the great things working on Android is the community around it, right? Like the fact we're doing this podcast, like you guys all know about Android and discussing
all
it
about it. They know all
about it.
So everything, in fact, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate the correction.
Yes. But like, we have Android Developer Summits, we have Google I/O, and we meet a lot of developers. And so when we think about the Android project, it's really not just us. It's also about the whole ecosystem of app developers, from all different companies and walks of life, and it's all the different device makers. And so this whole big group of people, humans working on this thing together. And so it's daunting, but it's also slightly reassuring that there's more people involved than just us as well.
Absolutely.
Better,
yeah,
so.
we certainly didn't make software and tailor individually to
Right.
2.5 billion people. We created software that could be tailored, right? We've created something that then enables other people to make things that are more suited to their use cases and more suited to their use cases until we've eventually propagated to everybody that we could reach.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to take a break. We need to thank the sponsor. Real quick before we go, short answer. We noticed early on that the Q had a 10 embedded into it. This was known all along, right? You guys knew this all along. You knew this was going to happen.
I drew it, so
It was a pretty good idea.
I think it worked out.
Yeah.
All right.
You can tell from his T-shirt. That's not that's actually a perfect circle. So it's actually a deconstructed Q.
So yeah, this is not the logo type 10. This is the Q graphic, the Q platform logo decomposed. This was a shirt that I actually made for I.O. I was going to put gaff tape over this part and put it
Oh
tape.
my
perfect.
gosh.
And then switch it on stage, but then we decided not to do the whole 10 thing at I.O. And so I just let Chet do his Chet thing at What's New in Android.
Right.
Make fun of it. So.
Right on. All right. Well, hang the line. We're gonna thank the sponsor, and then we're gonna get into some discussion, maybe more about System UI, which is of course close to both of your hearts. But Dan, I know you work closely on that, and a whole lot more. But first, this episode of All About Android is brought to you by Capterra. Capterra is the leading free online resource to help you find the best software solution for your business. If you happen to be tied down at work, you don't have to let the software search kill the vibes at work. You can basically ditch the office overtime and find options for your business in minutes with Capterra. You can read hundreds of thousands of reviews, which will make finding the right software for your business a breeze. You just go to capterra.com/AAA. There you're going to find that Capterra is the leading free online resource to help you find the best software solution for your business. Over 975,000 reviews of products from real software users. You can discover everything you need to make an informed decision by searching more than 700 specific categories of software. I mean, it's detailed. You can narrow down into just a number of specific categories that you didn't even know existed. Everything from project management to email marketing, e-commerce software, yoga studio management. Yes, there's software in there for yoga studio management. No matter what kind of software your business needs, Capterra makes it easy to discover the right solution and fast. So you can join the millions of people who use Capterra every month to find the right tools for their business. And I'm telling you, just open it up. Plug in a search for a specific category. You're going to find something you didn't even know existed. And then you're going to find a community around that that's telling you whether it's good or how it compares, all that kind of stuff. And you can do the comparisons yourself as well. Capterra believes that software makes the world a better place because software can help every organization become a more efficient, effective version of itself. Visit capterra.com/AAA for free today. And you'll find the tools to make that informed decision for your business. That's capterra.com/AAA. I'll spell it out, capterra.com/AAA. Capterra is software selection simplified. All right. We thank Capterra for their support. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the system under the hood. We've talked a little bit about the brand, but we've got two people who work very closely with Android nuts and bolts. So let's start with the system UI. And I think right there, probably the biggest topic that people are talking about with Android 10 and also for the previous, few versions of Android has been the evolution around gestural navigation in the OS. It's a big part of Android 10 now, definitely the biggest evolution of gesture navigation so far. I guess, there's got to be a lot of difficulties when you're switching from a button press sort of navigation mode to the gestural mode, within training people on how to use something new, within interacting with apps and the ways that things might unintentionally, integrate with apps, that sort of stuff. I guess talk through some of those difficulties that you guys have encountered getting to this point.
Yeah, I think this was a pretty complicated project. I would say, we did some work in Pi. Probably the biggest structural thing we did in Pi was we combined the launcher with the overview, the recent apps, and so those spaces, if you like, became one. And the process model changed, and that sort of paved the way to doing more. I think the thing we really noticed this year, particularly maybe end of last year, started this year, was that a lot of our device maker partners were pretty much all of them had a plan of some sort to do gesture navigation. And we realized, really January timeframe, I would say. So this is sort of a bit inside information, but we realized in January that we were kind of running into an issue where every device maker was implementing gesture navigation, but in a slightly different way. That would have been kind of a disaster for developers and for users moving between different Android devices. And we decided to accelerate our work on gesture navigation and try to come up with something that was standardized across Android. I think part of the push for gestures also is just, one is I think, if you've used it, you realize that actually it's a kind of a faster and more fluid way to use your phone when you've adapted to it. And then the second thing is it kind of leans into this trend in the industry, the hardware industry, for edge-to-edge glass, these beautiful devices that are just pure glass and have various ways of hiding the cameras on the front. And so it's sort of a perfect storm. Basically we've been scrambling to move pretty quick to come up with a solution. The good news is we've come up with something that we're pretty happy with. All of the users of Android 10 should decide for themselves, but we like it. And the feedback we've been getting from our beta population, so we have a pretty large beta population. The feedback we get is to be totally honest, it takes like a day or two to get used to it. But once you get used to it, pretty much the prevailing message is people do not want to go back. And that's kind of, I would say, very encouraging. The other thing I wanted to point out was pretty much all the device makers have now come online, sort of lined up behind this approach. And so what you see in the beta for Android 10 for gesture navigation is what you're going to see available on all Android devices going forward, which is pretty exciting.
I would say also that, this has been a ride we've been on since the lead up to Android P.
Yeah.
And you asked about difficulties. It's difficult to make a change of that magnitude quickly. And so it actually has been a long project, and we had a major release in between.
Yeah.
So you all kind of got to see the work in the middle.
Yeah.
The sort of the 2-button gestures in P were
on the way there.
Yeah. And so I think January was us deciding okay, it's time to launch the continued work that we progressed on from P in the Q time frame.
Yeah.
And even that went through a few evolutions, as you saw over the betas if you were playing along at home.
Yeah,
totally.
And actually, it's interesting with the betas. We like them because we get to iterate quickly and get feedback. I think for some people who aren't used to that, it's a little scary because they're like, "What is Google doing?" But you kind of just see how we do software development. We're continually iterating it as we go, and so it kind of went. Yeah, the beta program kind of went to plan, basically.
Working as intended.
Working as intended.
I'm glad that we have it, because it's really tough to say, "Oh, here's our new release," and it's done, and you can't give us any feedback. I got up at I/O and talked about the way the exclusion rectangles worked, and it was wrong by the next beta.
Yeah,
we changed it, right? Based on feedback and based on real interaction with users.
200 DPs.
That's right.
Yeah.
So speaking of betas, there was a tiny bit of concern over how the gestures might function with third-party launchers, just because maybe some launchers weren't fully prepared for the new gestures that are coming out. But I'm curious, what can we expect from the gestures with third-party launchers moving forward once Android 10 is officially out of the gate?
So we absolutely want third-party launchers to work with gesture navigation, and that's just... we just ran up against a little bit of physics of time, and we didn't quite get it completed the way we wanted to. And so the good news is internally we have it working, and so we're just going to release a small update soon after the release that adds support for third-party launchers. So
I saw it working just a few minutes ago. Works great.
Yep.
It's awesome.
Yeah, there's literally structurally no reason it shouldn't work. So
we just didn't get there.
Yes. Yes.
And I had a few custom launcher developers come up to me and say, okay, this is great, but what about us? And I'm like, well, we're working on it. We'll get there. I promise.
Yeah, I think I would say with System UI, one of the challenges is it's a little harder to schedule the project plan than it is for other things, because you have to iterate, and sometimes some things are easier than you thought and some are harder than you thought, and so I think our project plan was just a little off to what we needed, but we're quickly correcting it.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah, and the real work, particularly in System UI, where so much of it is user-facing. Like the first 90% is figuring out what we want to do, getting the design, iterating with UX, building prototypes, getting it out there, and we put it in front of users, and that starts the second 90%.
Yeah. And I had I had a direct conversation with some of the third-party launcher developers on email, back and forth, and just kind of, reassuring them that this really is something we want. And
Nice.
Cool. Well, so you talk a lot about, getting user feedback and getting feedback from the beta testers and putting it in front of users, and especially on this journey that you've been on for gestures for, several releases now. Do you guys do formal user testing to test the gesture concepts, or is it completely depending on, you guys think this is the right way to go and you're just waiting for that beta feedback when it gets in the hand of users? How do you, what is the thought process and the methodology before you roll it out?
Yeah, it's all of the above for sure. I mean, I think it starts with hey, we think this is a good idea. And then we do like formal user testing. And then sometimes it's like, oh, no, that was wrong. I see why that was wrong. Okay, let's iterate. And then we go out to betas after that. And I think the betas are like important for, you want, scaled feedback, but also you want feedback from the developers and what's going to work. And so you really need all of those. I mean, you need to have I will say you need to have an opinion going into it, like a pretty reasonable opinion that you like sense of what's going to work, but you have to follow through with all of those formal studies, user testing, as well as beta to get to a level of polish at the end.
We've got a great user experience group. The thinking that feeds into that strong opinion where we get started, it goes even further back.
Yeah, right.
Like we do ethnographic studies. Yeah. We walk around with people, see how they use devices, ask them, what do you think is going on when you use the device in that way, so that we can learn where things are maybe not explained well or where we can make it better. Again, this comes back to the responsibility of developing for so many people is every little micro interaction, if we can make it better, we make it a lot better in aggregate. And if we make it worse, we make it a lot worse.
And actually, speaking of working for everyone, there is it is fair to say gestures is not for absolutely everybody. Like if you have limited dexterity, it's not ideal. Like you're probably better off with buttons. Yeah. And so generally, like we don't like having lots of options, although Android does have a lot of options. We prefer to be a little more opinionated and not add settings. But in this case, the 3-button navigation, so like the back home recents, will continue as a option on all Android devices going forward for people who really don't want to use gestures. I think it'll be a minority of people who will use it, like a very small minority, but it's important that minority has access.
I was gonna ask you about that because this kind of crosses over into the world of accessibility, like we were just talking about, and and I think about it. We often do our own little user testing, with our small focus groups, and me particularly with my sister, who's a English teacher in high school, who I have her on a Pixel on the latest Pixel, but she also has carpal tunnel and has a hard time using the phone and stuff like that. And so I'm in my head thinking, how am I going to train her on these gestures when honestly sometimes they're challenging even for me to adopt. We talked about this on the show recently. So, the big not worry, but concern was like, if someone doesn't want to use them, can they still use Android?
Yeah, and definitely, and that's why we're mandating as part of the sort of what is a compatible device, mandating that 3-button navigation is still available, and that was really important as part of this project.
Ironically, the gestures can be, again, depending on your own ability of using the device, the gestures are sometimes easier.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
The back, like I hold my phone with either hand, and being able to go back with either hand without having to do that horrible reach to the other side.
Oh, it's so much better.
Having an extra thumb on the back of the phone helps, but it's nice just to be able to like hit back from anywhere.
Yeah,
I use it all the time. And that's the part for me that's hardest to, pardon the expression, go back to the old way.
Yeah.
So this kind of coincides with the system UI. It's a bit of a different road, just to say, that'll make sense in a second. One thing that I talk a lot about on this show is, I'm an avid user of Android Auto, and I know that the UI is changing. I use it on the phone specifically, and I know the UI is changing coming in Android 10. I know we had a bit of a demo for it at Google I/O, but is there anything more that we can sort of expect from it? Will we have that on, day one when Android 10 comes out? Can you guys speak to those new features?
I have nothing to announce at this time.
Yeah, I'm a little, we're both a little further away from Android Auto. So we work on obviously the core operating system, and then the auto team builds on top of it, which is actually a good testament to the architecture that we don't have to worry about too much about it.
Yeah, so we've enabled them to do what makes sense for their device type, and their device type is a little harder to hold than ours.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that's we should. I know exactly the people you should invite on to the next podcast to answer this question.
Excellent. We will follow up on that.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that on the show.
Sure, and it's a big shift. You know.
I want to make sure we have the right people to do it.
Absolutely.
Oh, certainly.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it would be a car crash. See what I did there?
Bottom.
Wow.
I don't want to throw Easter eggs at you for that one, but I will transition here because I know this is in your wheelhouse. Dan, you are you're kind of the creator of the Easter egg within Android. Is that right?
Absolutely not.
That makes you the Easter bunny.
That's a. No, I can't claim to have started the tradition.
Okay.
Even the place where the Easter eggs that we sort of now think of as like, oh, every new release of Android is going to have a new Easter egg in this spot. Like Diane was the first person to put something there. She put a goofy picture in there for Gingerbread. Gingerbread was the release that just sort of kept coming back from the dead. So that's why there's that zombie picture in there. And then I picked it up after that, but there were Easter eggs even in Android before that, right? There was a long list of like credits that was pre 1.0 that I think they had to take out because it just got too long and they're running out of ROM space.
Oh my god, I forgot about the credits.
Right?
Yes.
And there's a bunch of other like mini Easter eggs just in the API. Like if you need to measure gravity on the Death Star, like you can do that inside gravity.java. Yeah. It's just a different concept there. So I can't claim priority on Easter eggs in Android. What I can say is that it is something that I look forward to because at least I'll be able to code something each release.
Well, I think they're right. You're kind of synonymous with them because you really kind of the more intricate and more detailed ones you really established.
I'm happy to be a part of that like long-standing tradition.
But being a part of that long-standing tradition, is there a pressure to deliver to make this Easter egg to be better than the last one and more intricate, or is it does that become overwhelming?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like it was a couple months ago that a certain somebody said, Dan, we need an Easter egg. You should do. We're doing the Android 10 thing, so it should be something with numbers. And so that was my prompt for this year's Easter egg. Usually, actually, it's hastily repurposed demo code, right? Like in Lollipop, Lollipop was the big intro of material design. And one of the things material design had was the real-time cast shadows on views, which was amazing. Some real wizardry by that team. And so I said, well, let's just see how many of these shadows we can cast at once without dropping frames. And so I made a Flappy Bird clone just out of rectangles that were views casting shadows in each other. And then, a couple months later, like, oh boy, got to wrap up an Easter egg. So that's where we end up with the Flappy Bird homage Easter egg and Lollipop.
I liked that one.
That was a good one. I tried to make that one as difficult as possible to be as much of a proper homage to that year's.
It was it was one notch shy of absolutely impossible, basically.
Yeah, it was pretty hard.
Yeah,
I mean, you're kind of cruel in that way.
In at least that way, yeah.
Yeah. So then, if you had to pick a kind of like the one you were most, maybe you're not father Easter egg, but you're close to it now. You're as close to a father Easter egg as we have. So if you had to pick your favorite child, which one would it be?
Jeez.
I don't know. I love them all.
I know it's.
I'm partial to drawing apps, and so I really liked the paint program that I snuck into P.
Yeah, that was pretty effective.
Let's see. The Flappy Bird was good. I did like the in Marshmallow. We had a bunch of new support under the hood for game controllers and things like that. So that was the version that added multiplayer. Remember that you could have like multiple people all with different game pads trying to flap at the same time. It was absolute chaos. That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Nice. Well, so we do have to thank a sponsor, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more from the perspective of the fact that, oh, hey, by the way, Android's been around for a little more than 10 years now. We can kind of talk about some milestones and stuff. It's really great to have you guys on. Really appreciate you joining us today, Dan Sandler and Dave Burke. Hold on. Ron, you got this one.
Yeah, I want to thank LegalZoom for sponsoring this episode of All About Android. Because listen, summer is almost over. It has finally cooled down here in New York City, and it is not oppressively hot, which means that summer's over. And that actually means that so is National Make-A-Will Month at LegalZoom. That's almost over too. August is National Make-A-Will Month, and don't waste another minute. There's no better time than right now to make your will or living trust during National Make-A-Will Month. And as many of our listeners know, that I recently had a couple of babies. Me and my wife had twins, which means that I need a will and living trust to be put in place. God forbid something ever happens. I want to make sure my kids are okay. And luckily, LegalZoom is there to make it make it not daunting, to make it easy, to make it something that I can do without being incredibly stressful or expensive. Today, over 1 million people have used LegalZoom for their estate planning needs because LegalZoom makes it easy to create your own. You still have time to take control of your family and assets with a will or a living trust. And if you're not sure which one is right for you, not a problem. LegalZoom has a vast network of independent attorneys who can advise you on what's best for you and your family. And because LegalZoom isn't a law firm, you never have to worry about a lawyer's expensive billable hours adding up, which is great, trust me, because that can get expensive. So make things easier for you and those you care about the most. Check out LegalZoom's last will and living trust estate plans now during the final week of National Make-A-Will Month at LegalZoom.com. And to receive special savings, be sure to enter code AAA in the referral box at checkout. That's LegalZoom.com with promo code AAA. LegalZoom, where life meets legal. Thanks, LegalZoom.
Thank you, LegalZoom.
Yeah.
All right. So, perfect time to reflect on how far Android has come in 10 years. I think I kind of have a deep affection for Android at this point.
I think I have a deeper affection, but okay.
Okay,
I mean,
all right.
Jason, I mean, if we're honest, Android is the basis of our friendship.
Yes, it's kind of the glue that holds it.
We were friendly. We knew each other, but it wasn't until I got that Android phone and I was like, and you got an Android phone. I'm like, hey, man, Android's cool.
Your name's Ron? Oh, cool. We should hang out. Yeah, that's basically where it all started. What does your team see as the biggest, most obvious sign that Android is fulfilling its promise, living up to the grand vision that Android has? I mean, it's come so far in 10 years. What is the biggest win or the biggest thing, the biggest sign that you guys are kind of living up to the vision of Android, would you say?
I know it's nice to be able to not be shocked when you see an Android device in the wild. I joined the team almost exactly 10 years ago. At one point it already happened, but if you saw an Android device, if you saw somebody carrying like a G1 or something like that, like, oh my God, can I see that? Yeah. And you could strike up a friendship over that. It's a little less notable today, and that is a sign of success.
I think I grew up in Ireland, and so I've been living in the US for 8 years now. And I remember going home to Ireland and looking around and realizing that the majority of people were using Android devices. And so Android, I didn't work on Android when I left Ireland, and so I did a detour. So if you add up the years, you'd be going, wait, that doesn't work out. I was in London before that. But anyway, when I left Ireland, there was no Android. And so, I go home. I remember, when was it? It must have been like 2015 or something. And I was just like, wow, the whole country's got this thing that I work on. And just for me, that was visceral because
sure.
You have that connection with your home or whatever. And so for me, that was when I kind of was like, wow, this thing is big.
Yeah.
Because usually every other job before that, it would be like, what do you work on? Oh, I work on this thing. And everyone just sort of glaze over like, what's that? Now it's like I work on Android. And like, oh.
I've got one of those.
I mean, they might still glaze over. But at least you start with the O.
I mean, people always glaze over. Start talking.
So one other thing that's really grown over the last decade is the developer community for Android. I mean, it is I would say the backbone of this platform. So keeping in touch with that community is very important. What are some things that they say that they want more of Android, that they tell you guys that they want to see more of in the future or in Android 10?
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right to say it's the backbone. I think, I don't want to say it's easy to build an operating system, but it's relatively easy to build an operating system. It's really hard to build an ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think a lot of a lot of our brain power these days goes into like, how do you evolve that ecosystem? And actually, there's two. There's like the app ecosystem and there's the device ecosystem. But let's talk about the apps for a minute. And we spend a lot of time, like we talked about yesterday, and I was like, well, how do we introduce this in a way that still works for app developers? And whenever we're making changes, there's a lot of changes actually in Android 10 around privacy. And that's really hard because you're trying to, increase the privacy of the operating system on behalf of the user, but you don't want to break apps either. And so like, how do you do that? And so you have to work very closely with your ecosystem. One of the things that we do, we, as well as Google I/O, where we have a big developer conference, we also do these smaller consumer advisory boards, if you like, and we bring in, developers and we talk to them and we sort of do surveys and stack rank what they want to see in Android, and that's really helps guide us in terms of prioritizing different things. I think one of the things that I'm proud of that we've done over the last couple of years is really invested in our tools. I think Android Studio has got really good, and when I started out in Android, we just had this like plugin for Eclipse, and it was not great. Whereas now with Studio, I really feel like the team has done a great job, and we get a lot of feedback on it. And we just recently launched 3.5 with something called Project Marble, where we just focused on like bugs and, if you want to call it, bee stings, like little things that annoy developers. And the feedback we're getting is really good. Developers just really thanking us because they just want they want to be able to go faster, and they don't want crashes in the IDE, in the integrated development environment, etc. And so better tools, I think, is one thing that we've definitely got feedback on and that we've sort of reacted to.
Another thing that I think we, and much has been made of this over the years, but we're always surprised when developers want more opinions, right? I think that Android started, a lot of us are refugees from, operating systems of the 80s and 90s, where it was like, there's one way to do things. And so in Android, we don't care. Structure your application however you want. Diane had a manifesto, Diane Hackborn, the matriarch of the framework team, had a manifesto about how Android doesn't care, build it how you want to. And developers came back to us and said, okay, but how should we do it? Like, what is your guidance? What is the best way? And so that's where you get Android Jetpack. Right. And now, in sort of this new era of, what's the next generation of UI toolkits, we see Jetpack Compose is the next generation of us reacting to developers saying, yeah, we get it. We can do it. However, but what's the best way? What's the right way? What would you do if you were writing this app? And we're always sort of surprised when people want a little more of that opinion, because we came up in a time when we wanted to do things our own way. Like, let me just build two small tools that work well together and let the operating system get out of the way.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very super interesting. So looking back, getting a little nostalgic, and looking back at the past versions of Android, which version, of course, the latest and greatest being the most impactful, but of the past version of Android, is there one that sticks out in your memory that really was a game changer in terms of both what you were trying to achieve with the operating system, as well as the relationship with developers and what developers did with that OS?
Can we do the dating game thing? Can I guess? Can I guess what your answer is?
You know the answer. What is it?
No, I don't. I think I do.
Okay, what?
Jelly bean.
I know that. See, now I know why you're saying that, but actually, it's Lollipop.
What? Project Butter?
Project Butter was pretty.
Butter.
Yes.
Butter.
Yeah, right.
Project Butter was pretty. There was a special moment. I think. Okay, so I have two. It's Project Butter with.
I get half credit.
Get half credit, and then Lollipop. My memory of Lollipop though is like this. So Lollipop was Android 5, right? All right.
We didn't have numbers until 10.
We didn't have numbers.
10 is literally the first number we'd ever had.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. But if we did have numbers, it probably was 5.
Fifth, yes,
so my memory of Lollipop
5,
was, I think, it was a huge release for us. Was that, it may have been the last Google I/O in Moscone Center, but the first thing we introduced material design, which was a huge thing for us. And I, in some ways, I think if you look at, Google's UI design, it's quite utilitarian, and I think material design was the first time where people were like, oh, that's actually a really good design. I didn't know you Google folks could do that. And so I think that was one milestone. And then I think another one was just we introduced all the verticals, right? Like auto, wear, and TV. And so Lollipop was this enormous release. And I've probably spoken about this before, but I think it was also the other turning point for me was it was a little too big of a release. And I think we got a little too ambitious in terms of, I think quality suffered a little bit. And it was sort of after that, we started investing a lot more in engineering productivity and sort of better planning. But it was, it was a fun release. It was a very ambitious release.
For me, Lollipop was great. That was the one where we moved notifications to the lock screen.
That's right.
So you could finally start getting stuff done, swipe it away, do a little bit of triage without even unlocking and getting distracted by everything.
Yeah.
My answer is Jelly Bean, though, because that was when we introduced the rich notifications with the buttons that you could even take actions at all from them without just launching the app, and the ability to block notifications. I was very proud of that. Still am.
Yes. They were good features. They are good features.
One thing that has really changed over the years that I've noticed when I first got involved with Android early on, I was really into the kind of the ROM community. I had the Motorola Droid, the original Motorola Droid.
You were super into it. I remember every week I'd be like, "Is your phone running okay? What's going on?"
I mean, it was basically like every 4 or 5 days, it was like a new ROM, new ROM, new ROM. And part of that was out of a place of necessity, right? Like I just had this hardware that was dated pretty quickly, and I needed to update it because it was running slow, or it couldn't do this, or adding features. So it felt more like a necessity sort of thing. Now things have really slowed down in that regard. The ROM community still exists, but it feels less necessary. Do you feel from your perspective that's an indication that the platform has maybe matured to a point to where a lot of those features, a lot of the performance is already nailed down, that the ROM kind of flashing aspect of Android isn't as needed? Or how do you feel about that? What do you think about that?
I think that's an interesting point. I don't know how much of a factor this is, but one of the things we introduced into Android is this thing called Project Treble, where we have very clean formal interfaces between the sort of silicon and device-specific code, and then the rest of the operating system. And as a result, it's actually I think it's fair to say it's very easy to take a new version of Android and run it on existing hardware. And so I think a small aspect of this ROM community is it's less exciting now to bring up a device, a new version of Android, because we by design made it easier to do.
Right.
So that's one. I wouldn't say that's the dominant reason, but I'd say it's partially one of the reasons. If you're an engineer tinkering, it's not as a interesting challenge now.
I think another thing that ROMs used to offer that can now be achieved in other ways is just a diversity of like how the phone works and what comes pre-built on it. Back in the the OG Droid days, there were 3 or 4 Android phones. That was it. And so if you wanted something different, if you wanted, I want quick settings, which we didn't have on Android at the time, or I want something else, then you had to go to a ROM.
Right.
Now you've got tens of thousands of SKUs that you can go out and get exactly the experience that you're looking for. With a much more mature ecosystem, you don't have to roll it yourself. You can go and buy off the rack.
Yep.
Some people will continue to, make their own, and we're hiring those people, because the people that know how to work on the innards of Android are few and far between. But it's not necessary just to get a flashlight button anymore.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good point. There's a really broad, diverse, vibrant ecosystem of different devices out there. That's right.
So it's like Skyrim, except they're mods now instead of ROMs. Okay, I'm sorry. I was like,
you were locked into the Skyrim.
I was really
world.
locked into that. I'm sorry.
What about this word? Try this word on for size and see how it fits. See if it brings back some like PTSD. Fragmentation.
I knew it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I knew that was coming.
But I say this actually with a little bit of like clarity and levity, because it was a word that I feel like was used very often. Like I feel like in the press, fragmentation was being thrown and guilty as charged, because we were probably part of that conversation, thrown around left, right, and center because it felt like an issue. I don't feel like we hear that much about it now. And I don't know, I could see that as a win, right? Like, do you feel like things have changed for the better as far as that discussion is concerned?
Yeah, I think there's sort of good fragmentation and bad fragmentation. One of the analogies I like, one of our developers used this one with me once, which is like driving a car, right? You can go rent a car, buy a car, and all these cars are different. You got high end, low end, medium end, and different features. But you get into any car and you can pretty much drive it. It's got a steering wheel, it's got like an accelerator, it's got a brake, you might have a gear stick. And I think that the carification of Android has happened in the sense that you can pick up pretty much any Android device and it's pretty consistent. It's got a notification shade, it's got an app launcher, and yet the OEMs, the device makers, can still differentiate, but still create a familiar experience. And I think that's happened, which I think is good. The other thing I would say is as Android open source has matured and I would say got better. I think you have. I would say slightly more convergence towards, common UI. I think devices look a lot more similar. They're becoming more similar than different, I would say, in terms of their user experience. And I think that's just testament to the Android open source code is better. And so if you're a device maker, you feel less compelled to make changes because you're like, well, it's actually working pretty well. And then I think on top of all this, I would say, I mentioned earlier about how, the hardest part of really the operating system, the Android project is managing the ecosystem. I think we've got better and more thoughtful about managing the ecosystem. So gesture navigation, as we talked about earlier, we put a lot of effort into actually sitting down with like Samsung and Xiaomi and Oppo and Vivo and you name it, and sort of understanding how their different gesture navigation systems in the works that they had in the works worked, and then coming up with something that took the best of all of the innovations in our ecosystem, and then got everybody on the same page, and sort of created that conformance. So we're kind of being more proactive about that, and so I think that helps a lot. Yeah,
I think we've become, as you said, more thoughtful. We've learned, right? We've learned that you can't wait for everybody to develop their own multi-window APIs and then try to like drag that, cat back into the bag.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I'd say there's still work to do. Like, I think we can always improve. If you're a developer and you're writing an app and you want it to run on all sorts of different devices, like, some of the feedback we still get is like, well, hey, this API works slightly different on this one phone than this other device. And that's something that we're constantly striving to improve and make sure that we have what are called CTS tests, compatibility tests that, verify that the behavior is consistent on different devices. So I would say fragmentation for users is not such a big thing. I think fragmentation for developers, if you ask developers, they would say, it's still harder than they would like it to be, that they have to worry about slight quirks with different devices. And that's something we're continuing to invest in.
Awesome.
We have one last question before we let you two go, and it's a pretty light question, but we're curious, just out of complete curiosity.
No, this is the heaviest question of the interview. What are you talking about?
It's
important.
Yeah.
People are dying to know what is going to happen to the Android statues at Mountain View.
What now? Are they going away forever?
I genuinely don't know anything about the statues. I can credibly claim ignorance.
We are going to continue statues. That's the good news. And they will. We're going to have some fun with them. And I don't know if I can quite announce what we're doing yet, but it's
okay. But you've given us hope. At least.
Stay tuned.
Yes, no, definitely. We actually really love the statues.
Yeah.
It's a touristy thing when people come to visit us. From like when my family comes to visit, we take them like to the Silicon Valley tour.
So I'll spill the beans. We're gonna have a number statue, and it'll be fun. And then the other thing you can do with the new one is you'll be able to sign it. And so we would like to invite you guys to come along and sign it.
No way.
That'd be cool.
That's awesome.
That sounds fantastic.
That'd be awesome.
Great.
That is.
The team really has been excited about. Statues, the whole, everything, and so even messaging internally, like, hey, we're changing the brand, we're changing how we do this. We did this thoughtfully and carefully, and the team was super pumped. Immediately, everybody's response was like, okay, when can we get T-shirts with the new logo? When can we get? The team's been super excited. So I'm glad that we're doing a statue, even just so that the team.
Did you not know that we were going to do a statue?
I did not know.
The first time you found out?
It's the first time.
Sorry, we're just having a one-on-one.
That's right.
I love it.
I don't know. Well, we don't. Oh, with hours up, I guess you got another meeting.
Yeah, you got another meeting. You guys, this has been so much fun.
Yeah,
Dave Burke, Dan Sandler from Google. Really appreciate you guys joining us today and talking all about Android. Really, I walked right into that one.
All about Android 10.
Yeah, we love that you took out an hour of your time to join us today, and I know that our fans appreciate you as well. So thank you so much for making something that we love to talk about week after week, and we hope that we can have you back again sometime down the line to talk about whatever the newest Google news is around Android. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. It's been fun.
Right on. We'll talk to you soon. Dave Burke,
Thanks,
Dan
guys.
Sandler. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you so much.
All right, we are going to get into the arena, but before we do that, we need to take a break and thank the sponsor of this episode of All About Android, and that is ExpressVPN. If you believe that you're not being snooped on, or maybe that nobody cares about your online data, like I've heard that before, no one cares about me online, you're wrong. Because you listen to the show, you know that you understand that your privacy is under attack. Hackers, governments, ISPs, they're all gobbling up your data. And that's why we recommend getting the software that you can trust to protect your online activity. And that's ExpressVPN. I use ExpressVPN. I love ExpressVPN. It's super easy to use. Their apps use powerful encryption to secure your data. ExpressVPN runs in the background of your computer or phone. And you use the internet just as you normally do. You just download the app, click to connect, and you're protected. Personally, I don't go online without ExpressVPN, especially if I'm in like a public Wi-Fi or whatever. It takes no time at all to just load up, open up my phone, tap the button, I'm protected, and you really should do the same. ExpressVPN is the fastest VPN that I've tried. It costs less than $7 per month, comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. ExpressVPN uses new cutting-edge server technology called Trusted Server. Trusted Server prevents the operating system and apps from ever writing to the hard drive. It's a whole new standard of privacy and security. It's time to stop hackers, big brother, internet companies, all of them from grabbing all of your data. You can take back your online privacy like I have with ExpressVPN, and you'll see for yourself just how easy it is to use. I think VPN in days of old used to be looked at as like this really complicated thing that you had to go through a number of steps to protect yourself, and that would be enough to like deter you from doing it. And ExpressVPN has really solved that. They made it dead simple. Protect your online activity today and find out how you can get 3 extra months free with a 1-year package at expressvpn.com/allaboutandroid. That's expressvpn.com/allaboutandroid for 3 extra months free with a 1-year package. One more time, expressvpn.com/allaboutandroid to learn more. And we thank them for their support of All About Android. Before we get into the arena, that was so much fun. That was awesome.
We need a second to come.
I know.
That was. I mean, what was great was not only to get time with those guys,
Yes.
but to get like no BS kind of straight answers, which is like that's the best. I mean, and just everyone watching, we knew this was coming. We prepared for it. We had lots of conversations, and to have that conversation and be able to ask real questions and not get fluff answers and not have to ask fluff questions that's just why it was awesome. So great job, everybody. That was so cool. Thank you, Google. That was great.
And they're obviously we've talked with Dave before. I've seen Dan on stage a number of times.
I follow them both on Twitter.
Follow them both on Twitter. They are humorous people, obviously, as you saw in the interview, but they've just I knew this was going to be a great interview because they're just funny people.
You're working that close together. You're bound to become. I mean, it's
for
like
long.
us three. I mean, we are the three of us were like family. Like you guys are my brothers.
Yeah.
And I hang out with you every Tuesday. You know?
Exactly.
Just it's mandated.
And we have it's just that I have to. But I love it. No, it's that we all love Android.
Yes,
and that's why we do what we do.
My goodness, do we?
All right, and now it's time for the arena.
So many enter, but only one lives. Android Arena.
Last week's poll was twit.to/AAA poll 434. If you went there, I forgot to share this with Wade County. Sorry.
Wade County.
We were a little distracted.
Yes, we were a little distracted. I just shared it, but we'll buy some time. I can let you know. I can tell you what it is before.
We can see
you've got it. Okay. So, first place, Night Shift.
Oh.
47. Was that yours?
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Flow wins first with Night Shift, 47.5%. Second place is Sun Surveyor. That was my app. All right, I'm happy with second, although I would be happier with first. Whatever, 32%. And third place, Citizen. Citizen was a great app as well, 19, almost 20%.
I really thought I had a chance with Citizen there, man. I'm surprised.
Yeah. Yeah.
The fact that it's in limited cities, though, the fact that you can't, it's
that does
only,
limit it a little bit for sure.
It does limit it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So, sorry, Wade County. We were a little distracted. So we don't really know the standings, but what were they last week? Were you still in the lead, Flo?
Yes. Flo
okay.
is still
So
in the lead.
Flo is still in the lead then. Guest
Were behind me, and they weren't on
Guest is
last
behind
week,
you,
so.
and Ron and I are still battling the back.
Yeah. So
here we go.
That since you beat me, there we go.
Wade is amazing.
With the
awesome.
math, after 33 weeks, Flo is still in first place with 102. Guests have 95 points, but they weren't around last week, and they're not around this week, so guests are going to continue to drop. Jason pulls ahead from me with 70 points, and I am in last place with 66 points, which means that I'm going to go first today, and I am going to predict another last place finish because I'm going to bore you all to death with an app that lets you track expenses.
Oh, but this is exciting.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, here's why. Okay, so we're going to get right into it.
Story time.
My app is called Expenses, and it's free. And it's basically a dead simple app to let you track your expenses. And what I love about it is that it's very simple. It's by an independent developer, and it's open source. And the whole idea is that the code, the whole entire code is up on GitHub. And I love the idea of kind of open sourcing a functional app like this that I could potentially see one day in the main kind of like, kind of core applications that people need. If you use your phone for business like I do, like a lot of us do, if you travel, you got to keep track of your expenses. And for me, it can be a pain in the butt as you're going through your bank statements and you're going through all this stuff, trying to find a record of what you spent on. This is a great way using material design to just keep track of what you spend. So there, Jason is, for those watching the video, can see a very simple interface. You can tag every expense so you can sort and find them, give it a date, say exactly how much you spent, give any notes, and save it. I'm gonna expense an Android 10 statue for $5,000. There you
No
go.
biggie.
Awesome.
There we go.
We'll sign it.
Okay.
Yeah. So my only complaint is that it would be great if you could take a picture of the receipt, because often that's something you need. But this is, again, like I said, independent developer. It is open source. Hopefully someone will add that to the source, and in future updates that will add it. But yeah, if you work in any sort of corporate kind of office environment, you need to do expense reports. This will save you a ton of time. You can export it. So if you go up to the gear icon in the upper right-hand corner, you can import and export data to and from Excel, which is great. So you can go in and put all your expenses for a trip, tag them with that trip, sort it by those tags, then export it to Excel, and then be able to give it to your finance department as you need be or whatever. I know it's a little boring, but listen, it's a necessary evil. This is version 0.23, so it's early on. It's got very little downloads in the Google Play Store. I'd love if everybody from the All About Android, all of us who work for a living, all of us who travel, I would love it if you downloaded Expenses, give it a shot, support that dev. And if you're a developer, go onto GitHub. If you go back to the gear, actually, go back to the, it's got all the currencies. You can see there, it says view source code, 152 stars on GitHub. Down there. So it's on GitHub. Go check it out if you're curious about how they made it. So Expenses, free in the Google Play Store. Check it out. Good stuff.
Right on. That is Expenses, and it is not expensive.
Expenses. It is free.
Expenses
Nice,
is
Victor.
unexpensive. Very nice, Victor. All right. Flo won, so you're gonna wait until the end.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm fine with that.
I'm gonna go next. Mine's pretty straightforward, pretty easy app. Not a whole lot to it, but I kind of like what I saw. It's called Material Island. If you are a material design fan, oh yeah, it's money. It's okay, Victor. You can use that transition for this too.
Money.
Material Island is created by an independent developer, Jenny Hanel. I hope I'm saying your name right, Jenny. Anyway, she created all of the wallpapers within the app, kind of adhered to the material design the original material design kind of aesthetic of kind of like cardboard cutouts and that sort of stuff. And I think what's kind of interesting about this, it's so you have live wallpapers that you can assign, or you have static images if you don't want the live wallpaper aspect. But when it's a live wallpaper, essentially these different scenes animate with the time of day. Ooh. So if it's sunny, the sun comes out. If it's moon, if it's nighttime, there would be a moon overhead. Right now, I've got a volcano. There's basically 4 different time zones, and you can specify in here your own time spans. You can say these are the hours in which the moon, show the moon scene because it's nighttime. This is waking up early in the morning. This is afternoon sun. Sun is out full board, and then this is like late evening, which is I believe where we're at right now to have this like setting sun where we're at right now, but. Anyways, I just kind of like the art of it. I like the idea if you pay 99 cents, you can integrate live weather in there. There is an option to have total black on the background during the night portion. So that could save if you're on an AMOLED display. That can lower the battery hit of this.
You mean like that Note 10 that you're using right there?
Oh, by the way.
Sorry.
By the way, I've got the Note 10 with an LED case. Anyways, burying the lead. Thank you very much. It's all good. Anyways, so I like the art, This just reminds me of, it's Stonehenge, I realize, but it reminds me of, what is that movie with the rock stars? They lower the Stonehenge from the sky.
Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap. Thank you.
They go up to 11.
Yes, this reminds me of Spinal Tap, so I'll go ahead and... God, why did I blank on that? I feel like I failed myself.
You failed Christopher Guest.
Yeah, for sure. Great movie, by the way. Anyways, so now I've got Stonehenge there, and it's just kind of nice aesthetic. And, it's free, or it's 99 cents if you want
that Halloween one, if you want to be early, like the shelves of the grocery store.
Yeah, I'm not ready for that. I'm going to go ahead and put that away. But anyways, I also think it's a good opportunity to shout out to the independent designer, Jenny Hennell, for her art and finding a way to demonstrate it and be able to integrate it on your Android device. So support your devs, support your artists. Material Islands. She calls it a semi-live wallpaper. It's up to you, but I think they're pretty neat. Material Islands. All right, Flo, you are next.
Okay, so when my husband leaves me, I'm often left to my own device. Or a work trip.
Okay.
When he's not at home. Okay. I thought it was like when my husband
doing
leaves
fine,
me,
thank you. 3 years of marriage,
still planning for the eventuality.
Anyway, but when he leaves for a work trip, I either have whatever we get in the mail in our box, or I have to come up with a recipe of my own because I have to cook. I have to sustain myself. I can't just rely on him, unfortunately, especially when he's not there. So what really helps is to have an app, something that can, create a recipe for you when you're just like, what the heck do I do? I'm always amazed my husband can make food out of like 3-4 ingredients and just, we have these. Okay, I'll make this. I'm like, I don't know how you did that. That's amazing. It turns out that there are apps that can help you facilitate this. So today I am bringing to the arena Plant Jammer. And no, we're not jamming with plants. We're jamming with recipes. So what we have here is your very standard run-of-the-mill app. So the way this works is this does mostly plant-based recipes now, which some people plants. Okay, well, you can add meat if you want to. You don't need to specifically follow. And sometimes if I do have meat, I'm like, I'll put some chicken in this or something. Why the heck not? And the nice thing about it is it's free. There are some in-app purchases so that you can unlock further things. But let me show you what's free because I actually like what they give as a free service. So this is the home screen of the app, and I'm starving. It's dinner time right now, so I'm trying to figure out. I don't know. Do I want a dip? Do I want a salad? Do I want a stew? I think let's make a stew because I feel like that's my level of cooking and just being honest here. So we're going to go ahead and create one. Alrighty, it's doing magic. And now it's asking me to select a few ingredients I like to cook with. Now you notice this little icon over here. This icon has to do with the fact that I chose a specific route for my diet, and I will show you what that is after this, but just so you know what the icons are for. Okay, so I have some potatoes in my house. We always have garlic in the freezer. I always have carrots around because I love to munch on them. I don't know. What else is delicious? Corn. I always have canned corn because I'm weird and I like canned corn. We have tomato paste. We always have that in the cupboard. Okay, this is all I have. This is all I feel comfortable to work with. Let's go next. All right, now the magic artificial intelligence engine has paired a couple of things that you can add to your recipe, and this is just to kind of help you get on the road and you're like, what the heck do I do? So we have olive oil. We always have that around there. We have some smoked paprika. I know we have that in the cupboard. I know we have canola oil. I don't have any other of these things. That's a bummer, but it's okay. Let's go next. Let's figure it out. We're going to make a stew tonight. All right, so I've chosen my ingredients. The app will remove ingredients that don't fit. So in this case, it looks, I don't remember what it was that I selected. Oh, olive oil. It looks like it didn't include the olive oil in this selection. So I'm looking at the ingredients below, and it's not recommended that I use olive oil. Okay, I'm not going to even bother. So now I'm going to improve my score, which this is going to, okay, look around your kitchen. See if you can add any of these things. All right, lime, lemon, yogurt, sour cream, Greek yogurt. Sorry, don't have that. I do have white wine. We could add some white wine to that. Some crunchiness.
Stop, you're making me hungry.
Sorry, I know. It's dinner time in California. I have almonds. I love almonds. Let's add some almonds. We add a little bit of spicy. Let's see. I have ginger in the house. And we add a little bit of bitter. I don't have any of these things. So we're just going to go to the recipe. Okay, so this is going to take me about 60 minutes. It's a stew. All these things have to stew together, right? So it's going to take a while. Mm-hmm. So I can cook this now and it'll start me on the journey. And you can edit how many people you are feeding. I'm just feeding myself. So these are the measurements of what I need. White wine vinegar. Oh, it said white wine vinegar, not white wine. Oh, well, I do have white wine vinegar, so we're fine.
Yeah, that works.
So walk me through the prepping, the heating steps. I'm going to do all this stuff and wait for food to cook. Probably watch my stories while I do this. As I complete each step, I can go ahead and just mark it and it'll gray it out so that I'm not accidentally reading it. And if I want to put some finishing touches, I can put some almonds on top. Earlier it asked me to toast the almonds in a different pan. It'll teach me how to balance the taste. So I have this little wheel and I can select, if I need to save something, what do I have around the kitchen that I can add?
Or it's too spicy. How do I get rid of the spice?
Yeah, well,
that's really
neat.
You
could also just throw it out the window, but don't do that.
Don't do that.
And you can see the nutrition data. My only concern about this is that I don't completely understand the nutrition data because the developer behind this is from Copenhagen. So he's doing
Nice.
And my American education did not get me onto the metric system, but it's okay. That's fine. I'm not.
There's numbers there.
I'm not counting calories anyway. I'm not counting calories right now. This will. Oh, okay. So let's go backward. Oh, it'll show you. Let me start over. It'll show you the macronutrients that you have. So how much protein you're getting, how many carbs, it's in grams, of course, the fiber that you're getting. Now, this is where it starts kind of locking out. So this is where you want to pay to unlock it, but I'm okay.
Wow, that's a lot
I'm not that, it's okay. I'm not really tracking my zinc intake. I'm okay with that. You can start your own recipe catalog. So this is it's a Bitmoji of me as an avocado, which I uploaded today. And you can save recipes so that you have them for later if you like something a lot. Here's a recipe for guacamole that I made earlier today. Again, I'm going to cook it later, and you can add little notifications. It's like, hey, you're home. You should make some guacamole. There is one feature on here that I couldn't get to work, and I think it's because it's region specific. Again, the developer is from Denmark, so that might explain it. But you're supposed to be able to, so you can make a shopping list in this app. It'll let you add to the shopping list from the recipes that you create and anything manually you want to add if you're going to the grocery store. It's supposed to help you find grocery stores nearby, but again, I think that's region specific. I did ask a question because you can send a message to the developer directly inside the app. So I'm still waiting for a response. It is nighttime. It's the middle of the night in Europe right now. So I imagine I won't hear anything until much later.
No 24-hour support?
No 24-hour support.
From that one person that developed this app? How dare they?
And here's what I was talking about earlier. So we were talking about health goals. For me, a big goal is eating food that helps me maintain my blood sugar. I'll feel lightheaded throughout the day if I'm not eating enough nutrients, and that really sucks to feel that way. And so it's kind of nice. This is doing it by month. So this was kind of like the health goal for July, and what I got from my recipes. So I got a lot of omega-3 fatty acids. I got saturated fat I'm getting in the yellows, omega 6:3 ratio, which is pretty high, which is probably good for that. How many nutrients I got. And then again, we have the locked up stuff, but that's okay. We don't mind. I haven't unlocked any of this. I haven't quite figured out how to unlock it to be able to have that, but I really like the free stuff that I get with this, and I like that it's just like a really simple way to figure out how to make some. This is my first recipe. Was a stir fry, so it just like brought some sweet chili sauce, soy sauce, some almonds, carrots, corn, like bell pepper. Make yourself a stir fry, and if you want to add more to it, cook some chicken, toss it in.
The flow fry.
The flow fry, exactly.
Yeah. Sure.
So anyway, that's Plant Jammer.
Nice.
No jamming with plants.
I like it. That's a cool approach.
Cooking.
Very neat. Plant Jammer. Create your own plant-based recipes. And
there you go.
Free with a pro version somewhere.
Yes.
In the app.
Yes.
Look for it. All right. So you can go to twit.to/AAA poll 435. Today's episode is 435. So twit.to/AAA poll 435. Place your vote for your favorite app. Is it Expenses? Is it Material Islands? Is it Plant Jammer? What is it, Victor? Plant Jammer.
Oh, Victor wants to learn how to cook.
Victor is a chef. He considers himself a chef.
Yes, I do have a lot of random stuff at home that I could throw together.
Tonight, it's a collaboration of all ingredients that we have in the cupboards, and we'll see what happens.
It's called the fridge cleaning diet, Tonight dinners we're cleaning out
Sometimes
the fridge.
you just have to do that.
That's
Sometimes you
some
just have to do
pasta.
that.
Voila.
Nothing wrong with that at all either.
No. Sometimes you come up with some really
Use the
great stuff
food,
doing that.
especially us Americans, because we're very privileged.
Is there stuff with spam, recipes with spam in there?
No, but I'm sure you could. Well, it's all plant. It's all plant-based.
It's all plants. You didn't even
But I'm
watch.
sure you could add spam. I had spam today for lunch, so.
You voted for an app. You don't even know what it is.
The beauty of vegetarian meals is that you can
just
always
add
just
meat.
add meat to it.
It's true.
Add shredded chicken and you got it going. It's okay.
Okay.
Or
Still
spam.
Still
Sure.
not taking back the vote. Because
right.
I can add
Thanks,
it in.
Victor.
Yeah, you can add it in. It still gets your spam vote. Yes. No problems. Twit.to/AAA poll 435. And that is it.
Wow.
For episode 435.
Wow.
This is a great episode.
It
so
really
much fun.
was.
So much
It
fun.
was.
We appreciate you guys watching. I also appreciate you, Flo, for coming to the studio and being
I
on the show
appreciate Ron
week
for
after
being
week.
here week after week, so late on his end.
Yeah.
And I appreciate Jason for bringing us all together and keeping the thing working. So
That's all I love at this
shucks.
table.
so much appreciated.
I appreciate Victor too, because he's always pushing buttons and saying news
And
things.
hooking me
when
up
he-
with Pokemon cards.
and giving you
I don't
Pokemon.
appreciate Victor because he votes for apps without knowing what they are.
Gosh.
I knew it had
brutal.
to do with something like cooking
Yeah,
random
it's
stuff.
food.
Actually, I don't know what's worse. Did Victor not realize that it was a plant-based app so it wouldn't have spam, or did Victor think spam was a plant?
I think the latter, right, Victor?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Spam is delicious if you bread it and fry it, by the way.
I'm going to Hawaii in November, so I will probably at some point eat something with spam, right?
Yeah, I got a spam tree in my backyard.
Yeah, you just grow the cans of spam in the backyard.
Okay.
They just come out in their natural tin cans.
Interesting. Interesting. Flo, what you got going on?
Oh my gosh, well, this weekend is the 90210 weekend that I've been planning for months. So that's all
what?
I got on my mind right now.
Oh, I thought it happened already.
No, it's this weekend.
Yeah, very
Brian
exciting.
Austin Green and Tori Spelling are going to be in front of me live and in person on Saturday. Yes. And then on Sunday, I'm going to the Peach Pit pop-up. I'm really excited. And I'm dragging my husband to everything.
Oh, lucky duck. All right. Well, you have fun there.
Thank you. I mean, look, you asked me what I had going on,
mean,
and it's kind of a light week for me because I'm planning, this little trip to SoCal.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on. But I do have my
You're gonna have
best gaming laptops up at review.com if you want to go check out my months of hard work benchmarking in the 90-degree heat in my house, by the way, which makes it a lot hotter when you're benchmarking laptops. So go check that out. It's all about how to buy a gaming laptop, how to choose one, how to choose between the different GPUs and CPUs out there, and what is a good value. We also put up best gaming laptops under $1,000, so you don't have to spend an exorbitant amount of money.
Nice.
So if you want to find that, that's at review.com, or you can go to florencezion.com, and I have a link there. I also have a recap. We had a live show last week for the other network I'm on,
That's right.
Relay
You
FM.
won, right?
My team won Family Feud last week.
Good. Congratulations.
Yeah, I
knew you
helped. I flubbed a lot of the Mac questions, but we had one question about Google's failed products.
Nice. Nailed it.
Wheelhouse.
And Reader was one of the biggest score bringers, and I think that really helped us because otherwise I kept messing us up. But yeah, florencezion.com, and you know where to find me on Twitter, Instagram, and I'm also still on Snapchat. Yes, I am.
Don't know why, but you are.
Because there's a lot of ASMR videos on there, and I just go on there and I'm watching people play with sand, and it's really relaxing.
Interesting. I had no idea. I had no idea
I'd be into it either, but
that's the thing. You don't know you are until
really
suddenly you realize you
sand,
are.
Apparently.
Ron, what about you?
Follow me at twitter.com/RonXO and Instagram.com/RonXO. Although I've been very busy this summer. I've just been working a lot, as you can tell by the bags under my eyes, and sleep training twins. So it's just been nonstop.
Sleep training. But I'm so sorry.
Yeah. But no, this past weekend I was in front of the computer for all hours because of the D23 Expo. So I was working that. So that was fun. But yeah, so just really looking forward to Labor Day and taking it easy. And hoping after Labor Day, kind of get re-engaged, kind of get some new podcasts, the finale out for everybody, and also working on Scorebit. So so more to come in the fall.
Right on. Awesome.
There's our fun pinball project coming along. We're actually I can talk about this. We're moving from prototype into hardware manufacturing. It's really exciting.
Nice.
It's very exciting.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
Do you know there's a Skyrim pinball? Sorry.
I don't know if you want to go back to Skyrim.
I'm sorry. I did that.
Listen, you got away from it. You made the distance. It was in the rearview mirror. You don't need to come back to it.
It's done.
Sorry,
it's
all I've been doing. I've had a lot of.
It was just literally we should edit in crickets after that moment. It
was a big burn, but it's okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
I stand behind it.
Let's see here. You can find me on Twitter at Jason Howell, doing shows here on the Twit Network. Next week on the show, I will review.
Look at those rainbows.
I know.
Ooh,
this is
very sexy.
What is it? The Aura Glow, I think, version of the Samsung Note 10 Plus. Yes.
I like the front-facing camera there.
The hole punch.
Yeah.
Front-facing camera hole punch right up there.
I almost it distracted me during the arena. I almost called it out, but I'm like, oh, no, save it.
Yeah. So. Anyways, I plan to review this next week. I've been playing around with it for probably 5 days now, and I still need more time. We just didn't have time for it on this episode either. So next week's episode,
It's a big phone.
Samsung
There's a lot to
Galaxy
cover
Note
about it.
10 Plus. That's my plan. That's right. There is. But it's very fine looking phone. Nice phone. Very powerful. So far, so good. My screen went off. You'd think after all, my computer just turned off.
Did it die?
Wow.
I don't know what I did, but I think I just turned.
Here,
my
you
computer.
can borrow mine.
You'd think after how many years we've been doing this show, I'd have
That's
it memorized.
never happened? Oh, yeah, you think you'd have it memorized. I'm also surprised that we've never had a hardware failure like that in all these years of the show.
I touched my touchpad and the screen went zzz, and it turned off. That's it for this week. Leave us voicemail 347-SHOW-AAA. Send us emails at AAA@twit.tv. You can find our Arena apps list. See, I'm looking here. I'm not even looking down. twit.to/arena or apps.
Yeah, Arena apps.
Android apps. Damn it. Thought I could do it. Really, the only thing you need to know is twit.tv/AAA is where you go. There you're going to find everything. When we record live every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, twit.tv/live. That's there. You're going to find your subscribe links, audio, video, YouTube links, all the different podcatchers, everything. twit.tv/AAA. I should really make it easier for myself and just say that at the end of the show. And that's really all you need to know. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next week on another episode of All About Android. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Show off.
Yeah.